step and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He is a fiduciary advisor, plans and wealth management, former state council, and fee transparent planning. None other than Mr. Alex Langan.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, welcome back, Mr. Alex. And can you please introduce more about yourself as that I met?
Absolutely. I'm licensed attorney and chief investment officer at Langan Financial Group, located in Central Pennsylvania.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about what are the mistakes people make when planning for retirement. And before that, tell us why you get the award-winning multi-generational wealth advisory.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been fortunate to serve Harrisburg area as well as all across the country as far as Hawaii. We serve families, institutions, and group retirement plans for over 40 years. It's been a great run. My father started the business, and my brother and I are in the process of taking it over. So it's been really fun.
Yes, and you need an applause for that. Double applause, Mr. Alex. Keep up the good work. And let's empower people all over the world through your award-winning talent. Let's start with the biggest blind spot. Most people focus on magic number. Why is it exclusive pursuit of a net worth target as a dangerous mistake? And what should people be calculating instead?
Great question. Yeah, net worth, it's challenging because it's not, you need liquidity for retirement. So a lot of business owners, they might have a significant net worth, but it's tied up in the business. Like, usually it's 70, 80% or so of somebody's value. Or they incorporate their homes, but you can't really use your net worth in your home to live off of for income because you actually have to live there. So you got to be really careful when you're using your net worth as the gauge. It's a fun gauge to use, makes you feel good about yourself. But when it comes specifically to retirement, it's not the gauge you should be using.
A huge mistake is a planning for stranger your future self. How does your brain's inability to genuinely connect with our older self lead to undersaving and poor lifestyle planning? How does you bridge the empathy gap, Mr.
Yeah,
Alex?
that's a great question. You want to live for today while planning for tomorrow. So
Mm-hmm.
the two usually compete against each other. Whether you want to go out and enjoy it could be such as like your health. Oh no, I want that extra beer. I'm going to eat that cheeseburger today instead of eating that banana, apple, whatever it is. You're just hurting your future self, and it's tough. Just as it's tough to think about what a dollar is going to be worth in 30 years, it's tough to figure about yourself in 30 years and what's best for yourself then. So um, trying to focus and centralize the plan for 30 years is challenging.
Empowering answer, Mr. Alex. Many approach retirement planning as a purely financial exercise, ignoring the psychological pillars of meaning, structure, and community. Why is it planning your time and purpose arguably more critical than planning your portfolio?
Well, it helps with longevity. Uh, First and foremost, I know a lot of people I see that retire and they don't have a game plan for when they retire, what they're going to do, what's going to motivate them, what's going to provide the purpose of life and to continuing to live. Sit on the couch, and in a couple of years, they're usually physically incapable and they lose the will to want to live. So, what's the point of working hard your whole life just to give up after you quit working?
Definitely. So let's talk about the financial blind spots. What are the calculators miss? The classic error, understanding longevity and inflation. people plan for 20-year retirement but live 30 plus. How should you refrain the plan to account for living to 95 plus in a world where dollar loses half its value every 25 years?
Daniel, yeah, you have great questions. You really need to account for that right now, especially given the federal deficit and that President Trump came out and said that they're going to continue to devalue the dollar. It's going to have a serious impact in retirement. So how to plan for it is what we use in in our normal retirement calculations. We assume you're living to 95, 100. The vast majority of couples now that are retiring right now, at least one of them will live into their 90s. So you really need to account for that, especially if a married couple loses one of the two social securities. When the one person passes away, you're going to lose some guaranteed income. So the way to do it is to pull everything into present value. Assume a reasonable inflation, 3% or so is usually what we gauge. So assume 3% inflation, pull everything back in today's dollars. So that way people can picture what the worth of a dollar is today. They know what it's worth. And it makes it much more realistic planning 30 years out with the devaluation of the dollar.
Mr. Alex, healthcare costs are the single most volatile and terrifying variable. What are the most common and often catastrophic mistakes people make in estimating and preparing for medical expenses in later life?
So one of the most common errors is thinking that once you get on Medicare, it pays for everything. You still will have premiums. You still have to pay out of pocket costs. And the vast majority of people that retire, I've heard it go, slow go, no go is one way to phrase it is you're retired, you're spending money on vacation, traveling, doing things you want. You start slowing down, you don't do as much, so you save a little bit money. But then a no go, you actually increase spending significantly on healthcare costs. And that's, as you pointed out, Daniel, you can get in serious trouble if you don't take that into consideration. You could specifically have a line item for 5 to 7% inflation, which is still slightly undervalued. Like healthcare costs has been rising 20 to 25% per year for people with premium costs and such.
Very well said, Mr. Alex. So let's talk about asset location, not just allocation. What is the mistake of having the right investments in the wrong accounts, like taxable versus tax advantage, and how does it silently erode the next egg?
That's a great, complicated question. So you should have different taxable buckets, as a lot of people like to refer them to. You have your traditional, which gives taxes ordinary income, your Roth, which is no tax, and then your brokerage or non-qualified account, which is taxed as capital gains or ordinary income, depending on the time frame you pulled out and whether you're getting dividends or yield kicked off for it. A lot of people should really consider focusing on maybe some Roth conversions if they can lower their tax bracket in early stages of retirement. Because later in life, if you have several $1 million in your traditional IRA, it was your 401k, you rolled it over, um, you actually can really get bumped up and get crushed in your tax bracket as you get into your late 70s, 80s, and retirement because of the required minimum distributions. Increase the amount that you have to pull out each year. If you don't pull it out, there's an immediate 50% penalty for failing to pull out the money that you have to. So you should really consider on looking across the different tax buckets, where to pull it out from, either now being proactive early in retirement, being proactive to account for later taxes in life, which taxes are only going to go up with our federal deficit problem we have. So you're going to get taxed. It's probably going up later in life, especially if your marginal tax bracket increases because of the required minimum distribution. So you should really focus on, you can calculate how much you want to hit, what your marginal tax bracket you want to hit or stay under, and the IRMA, which is the additional surcharge and Medicare premiums that you have to pay if you get up to over, it's around 215,000 or so. And then it continues to tier upwards. So take that all into consideration, extrapolate it across the different buckets, and then you can figure out exactly where you need to pull from and what to pull from across each year, especially if there's a significant market downturn, then you probably want to pull extra from your pre-tax account into your Roth.
The one size fits all, Mr. Alex,
Mhm.
investment glide path. What is or why is automatically shifting the ultra conservative bonds as the retirement a potential disaster? And what is a more nuanced strategy for generating income over a 30-year horizon?
That's a great question. So taking your target date fund, thinking it fits you, it can work early on. It's the vast majority is allocated. Like for instance, Vanguard uses four: total US, total international, equities, and then the same on the bond side. So it works well if you're just saving, and volatility works in your favor. However, as you get closer to retirement, first you have to make sure your target date fund is known as either a to retirement or a through retirement. To retirement get you to retirement, and usually it's a lot more conservative right then. Through retirement, the goal of the target date fund is to actually increase risk to get you through retirement to fight inflation, as you mentioned, Daniel, earlier, that you're going to live hopefully 30, 40 years in retirement. So they try to fight inflation throughout retirement, which means increased volatility and increased risk. So first, know what you're in, and then also know that that may not be the best vehicle for you as you encroach or approach retirement 5 years. When you're 5 years within retirement range and 5 years after retirement, sequence of returns is critical. I cannot stress that enough. Sequence of returns 5 years before retirement and 5 years after retirement, what the market actually returns in that given year is the most important time for your retirement planning, because you're withdrawing money or gearing up to withdraw money. So heavy shocks to it really, really affects your portfolio. And your overall amount that you're able to withdraw throughout retirement. So if you're to or through retirement, you may be taking more or less risk than you realize. And if you have shocks, volatility shocks, you're just generally in index funds for a lot of these things. So it's probably not accounting for cash flow, for dividends, controlling volatility, downside protection in an index fund or target date fund, because they're common, they're to mass markets. So you should really focus on your plan, how much you have to pull from retirement, and do some cash flow analysis leading up to retirement. And again, 5 years to retirement, 5 years after retirement is the absolute most important time that you really need to take serious consideration of your retirement plan.
Mr. Alex, let's talk about the lifestyle, the logistical pitfalls, the default retirement mistake, simply replicating a life or leisure without intentionality. How does a lack of a daily structure, meaningful engagement become a fast track to decline? And how should people roadmap their time?
Well, I appreciate the laissez-faire approach. Let life happen to you. Don't worry about it. Pieces fall where they may. That is a great attitude to reduce stress. However, if you get a major shock to the market, gearing up for retirement, you're going to be so stressed out, and you may have to work 5 more years or 10 more years. If it was 2007 and this happens, the laissez-faire approach is a terrible idea. So failing to plan is is a plan. You're failing at it. So you cannot go in thinking this is easy. I'll just withdraw 4% and I'm set. You have to really consider what else could happen. For instance, Social Security will be bankrupt in 5.5 to 6 years, depending how much quickly people draw down. That means there's going to be around over a 20% reduction in current benefits to retirees. The vast majority of retirees rely on Social Security as the majority of their component for income. So a 20% reduction in income, their monthly income, would be significantly devastating for anyone, especially those that depend on it much more. So it is crucial to have a plan for retirement early on, in your 20s, 30s. It's all about how much you save. Be aggressive, save as much as possible. Don't I always like to say, don't be sitting there eating cat food and ramen noodles, just so make sure you can retire. Enjoy life as you move along. Um, Unless you happen to like ramen noodles. I actually like ramen noodles, so maybe I'll eat that once a week or so. But what you need to do is save as much as possible, and then as you get later on, really come up with a plan. If you don't have one in your 40s, you're starting to breach the time frame that you should really focus, get serious, see where you're saving, what tax buckets, how much you're saving, and then when you're getting in your 50s and absolutely in your 60s, if you don't have a game plan, you're going to be in serious trouble. Even if you have saved enough, a major shock to your portfolio that you're unaware of um, could be devastating and push retirement out a decade or so.
Mr. Alex, let's talk about the risk mismanagement. Understanding sequence of returns risk or returns risk. Why are the first 5 years of withdrawals so disproportionately important, and what is the safeguards can protect a portfolio from the bad luck of the worst possible time?
Great question. So it depends on your approach you're taking. Let's assume it depends on the approach at the impact, but let's assume that you didn't manage your cash flow, so you don't have a cushion there. So you're withdrawing straight from your investments. If you're withdrawing straight from your investments and you have a serious downturn in your portfolio, 30 to 40%, and you're withdrawing 5%, you're now compounding your losses by an additional 5%. So it's 35%, 40%, and you're selling when it's down. So a standard loss, you actually have to make about double that to come back, especially with your withdrawals. So what that means is if you have $100,000 portfolio, you lose 10%. So you have $90,000, you gain 10%, you have $99,000. So it's not equal. On top of it, if you're pulling money down when it's at the lowest points, you're going to have to take a lot more to come back. So if you take $5,000 off when it's at its bottom at $90,000, you ate $85,000 and you get that 10% return, you're just back up to 85. You're at 85,000, you're back up to 90, 95, 94,000, whatever the exact math is. You're compounding the problem as you're pulling money down. And we've been very fortunate with our drawdowns. So we've had several market corrections, 20% or more over the past 6 years, but they've all come back very quickly. Usually, like it's been record breaking 3, 6 weeks since the low, and it comes right back. Usually it's been coming back. For instance, COVID came back because the federal government deployed trillions of dollars, and so the market came back. With our federal deficit the way it is, if the federal government continues to deploy trillions of dollars, just prints money into the system's going to start fighting back. Bonds are going to skyrocket because we have to issue U.S. Treasuries, significant U.S. Treasuries, um, to fund our debt, our deficits. Um, Buyers in the market are already stepping back and saying we don't want more. China, for instance, other international governments are coming and saying we don't want any more U.S. Treasuries. They've been buying gold in its place. So if that happens again, we're going to have a drawdown, 20% drawdown in the market. The U.S. government's going to come out and say, hey, here's a bunch of here's a bunch of U.S. dollars. Let's get this thing going again. But then nobody buys the bonds. U.S. Treasury is going to spike, and anybody holding U.S. Treasury is going to be losing money. That comes back to the devaluation of the dollar. So it's going to compound it. So to start with your sequence of withdrawals that you're taking money out, you're reducing the amount that in the ability for the market to come back. It's going to get compounded in a serious market crisis because the U.S. government is running out of tools to be able to alleviate the market drawdowns. It's going to extend it. You're going to have to continue to take money out, and it's just a compounding effect. So it's going to continue to hurt your portfolio. So that's a very long-winded answer to tell you what's the significant issue with that, especially in the first 5 years of retirement.
Very well said, Mr. Alex. Very well said indeed. And the advisor and the DIY dilemma. The mistake of choosing an advisor based on friendship or charisma. What are the 3 to 5 non negotiable fiduciary questions someone just asked before entrusting their life savings to professional?
Great question. Most people say you a fiduciary. It's funny that definition is getting so convoluted. You're not really even sure what it means anymore. Uh, the they're A fiduciary is somebody that puts in writing that says they're legally obligated to act in your best interest. Um, you have to have trust with the person. You have to know that they're looking out for your best interest, and they have to have not only the capabilities but the staff to help you. You better make sure that they have a decent succession plan. The vast majority of financial advisors are well into their 60s now, so if something happens to them, is it a one-man shop, or do they have a really significant team behind them that is capable to pick up where they left off? So check for that. Also, make sure that they have the proper financial planning tools. I get nervous when financial advisors are using spreadsheets. Some of them could be math gurus, but it's super easy to make a mistake in a spreadsheet. You want to make sure that it's systematized, that they have a way, a standardized way to help you through retirement, the entire way through retirement.
So, Mr. Alex, the course correction, and it's never too late. For someone of their 50s or 60s who's realizing they made several of these mistakes, what is the first most impactful step to triage the situation? Is it it's spending, saving, working longer, or combination of both?
It's usually a combination of the two, working longer, saving more. But first, just recognize that you have an issue, you got to deal with it. So whether that's talking to, I mean, going on ChatGPT and just asking ChatGPT questions, or going and meeting with somebody, you need to set that initial appointment, get all your documents together, and know where you're at. uh, Maybe you got lucky and you didn't realize you're putting in 15% in your 401k plan. I doubt that was is the case, but um, know where you're at, and then start working with somebody to get a plan together.
Yes, indeed. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. Alex, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and my book 101 review in sixth season as well. Comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in sixth season too. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 of fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in its fourth season, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, my Bible Verses 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Alex, finally, if you could get everyone into or to internalize one core philosophy about retirement planning, a North Star to guide every decision, what would it be?
Get a plan, stick to it, make sure you're well diversified on your investments. That's the start.
Yes, people, start now and stop procrastinating now and now. According to Mr. Alex, an award winning financial advisor. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you want to promote on Abstract Essay, Mr. Alex?
Absolutely. I am coming out with a book here in a couple of months regarding being a fiduciary over 401k plans and the hidden fees, and how the vendors are systematically structuring it to hide these fees. So please be on the lookout for that. And you can find me at alex@langanfinancial.com.
Yes, people, please do come over, Mr. Alex, once the book is being published. Let's talk about on abstract essay, on book 101 review, and of course on entrepreneurship 101. I'm inviting you to please do part of those podcasts. So, people, let's support Mr. Alex, because if you support him, for sure, more and more award winning financial, while expertise will rise. So I have one more question, Mr. Alex. Underestimating sequence of return risk. Why are the first 5 years of withdrawals are disproportionately important?
Disproportionately important with sequence of returns in the first 5 years, because that is the most impactful to your portfolio from the planning start. So if you think about it, if you have significant returns and you're in a bull market initially, you can make up for any weaknesses or inflation in the first 5 years. If you have a bear market or significant shocks to your own portfolio, and you're withdrawing money you didn't plan appropriately, and you're withdrawing money or withdrawing too much money, you cannot make it back because it's compounding the losses in your portfolio. And it's just
One more,
continuing.
Mr.
Thank you.
Yeah. One more, Mr. Alex, sorry.
Yeah.
To set it and forget it error, why is an annual retirement plan checkup that goes beyond portfolio performance essential?
Because you have to account for taxes, cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
In portfolio, you also got to check fees, your Social Security optimization. You should know about that and the potential losses to it. Plus IRMA or medical care surcharges. There's a lot more to planning than just, I put my money in the S&P 500, I'm good to go. There's a lot more to it. So having a comprehensive retirement plan focuses on a lot more than just how's the S&P 500 doing.
Mr. Alex Langan, award-winning financial advisor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Modicom people, see you soon.